Hi, my name is Chankin-Gould. I'm 27 years old, I'm a conservative Jew, and I'm gay. When I was growing up, I was in Long Beach, California, and I grew up where there weren't so many gay adults around me that I knew of. And so as I was starting to figure out who I was pretty scared, and I suffered from a lot of teasing and a lot of bullying. I can't remember one day in middle school that went by without being called fag in 5 or 6 different languages. It was the first word I learned in a lot of different languages because it was what was yelled at me. I felt so different for being effeminate, for hanging out with the girls, and eventually for the feelings that were coming up in me as I realized that I was attracted to boys. It was a very difficult time, and the bullying was intense and scary, the getting shoved into lockers, the names, the threats, all of that. And at the same time, the worst part for me was what happened at shul. That I remember being 13 and studying for my bar mitzvah, and a kid who was in my bar mitzvah class came to the other kids at Kiddush to share what he'd been learning in his Torah portion. And he shared that he had learned from the Torah, from Vayikra, from Leviticus, that God hates fags. And I remember him telling me that, and knowing in my heart that it must be absolutely true, and that God must hate me. So I suffered this hatred that I felt from myself, from those around me, and now I felt like I had lost God too, and nothing could be more devastating. Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm in the middle of Israel on a teen trip, and I get to have this moment alone in the desert that I can't explain in sufficient words, but I cried to God, telling God how alone I felt, how afraid I was that God couldn't love me, and I felt the wind whip around me and an embrace from God, and so I came to know that God loved me for who I am. That's saved my life and my soul. And so, though I don't know your story, I do know what it's like to feel alone and scared and unloved, and to feel that those around you and that even God has rejected you. And I want you to know you're not alone, and that God loves you just the way you are, just the way that God made you, perfectly, precious and beautiful. And that there are people out there in the world who love you just the way you are. And you know, there's this whole campaign about it gets better, and the truth is, life doesn't get perfect, but if you stick it out, it does get better some days and sometimes. And I've been able to witness that as I've grown into a space where I get to now study to be a rabbi in the conservative movement, something that I stopped dreaming about because I thought it was impossible, and that it couldn't happen. But it did, and I'm here, and society improved, and our world improved, and I've lived long enough to see it, and it's so precious to see the world grow better. And I've got to grown up to meet my husband, to dance with him in Jerusalem for the first time when I met him, to move back in the States, to marry him in a conservative shul, to celebrate my marriage to him on the same bima of the same shul that I grew up in, thinking that God hated me, learning that God loves me and celebrates me and my husband in that same space. So things got better slowly, and sometimes worse and then better again. But life is so worth living and so beautiful. So I just want to say that we need you in the world, that there are communities full of Jews and others who love you and accept you and want you here, and I hope you'll seek us out. And if you're feeling afraid right now and you're needing some help, please, 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 call the Trevor Project. There's somebody on the other side of the line waiting to hear from you and to support you. The number is 866-488-7386. 866-488-7386. Call them, seek the help and the support you need, and above all, know that you're not alone and that you're loved.